Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for coming. It is great to see everyone here today. As my guest today, I have Geoff, Godless Scummer, and Tara. Is it pronounced? Oh, Tara Meyer. I'm sorry. I almost said Miller. I don't know why I almost said
Mir
Miller.
as in here.
What'd you say?
Mir as in here.
Oh, Mir. Okay. It isn't Meyer. It's Mir. Okay. And Tara Mir. I've always known you as the Lone Wanderer.
I know I have to come out now because I've got a book. So I was like, I
Yeah.
can't really type the Lone Wanderer. I could.
Well, you could have written it under the pen name The Lone Wanderer.
Well, I thought about releasing it under a pen name, but then I was like, no, it's fine. I mean, if I ever write a book about my childhood, it will be under a pen name because
Mm,
I
mm,
do not want that out there
mhm,
with my real name on it, I should say.
mhm. Are your parents still around?
They are, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that probably would cause some issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would. So it'll be the names are changed to protect the victims.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, one of those.
Okay. And today, the purpose of this stream is to promote some of the works of my friends, Lone Wanderer or Tara, and Geoff, God the Scummer, have both been longtime promoters of my channel. They've been friends of this channel since the inception. And so I wanted a chance to promote their projects. And let's start with Geoff. Geoff, I understand that you have a new series on history that you're doing.
Yeah, about a couple of months ago, I started a new channel, and it's more a side project than anything else. And to be honest, I haven't really put anything on there now for about a month. But I've got this. I've started this channel called History with Scummer because I wanted to do some history content and kind of keep that separate from my main channel. I mean, I've had things on my channel before where I've like talked history and so on, but I really wanted to do something where I could where I do a little mixture of maybe react to some historical content on YouTube, but also like go out and if I'm at a sort of historical site and so on, and just film myself there and talk a little bit about the history of the place. Of course, one thing perhaps I didn't necessarily uh, think of going in, and that's been a bit of an eye opener. Is obviously I have to be sometimes a little bit careful about filming and putting stuff on YouTube in certain places because they're not very keen on you filming, as I found out with the historic dockyard in Portsmouth. So
Mm,
yeah.
Hmm.
okay. Now, I made a small error, and that is, I've watched a couple of your history videos, and I've just followed the links that you've posted on Twitter because that's where I got them from. I didn't realize it was a separate channel. So in the description, I have your regular channel. I don't have the history channel linked, and I will fix that at the end of the show.
Yeah,
But for
no.
now, Mark Caesar or someone, could you please grab the link to Geoff's history channel and put that in the chat, and I will pin that, and then people can go and subscribe to the new history channel. Now, I saw the one I remember best is the one where you were at the bridge in is it Belgium?
As in Holland,
In Holland.
Arnhem, which is the
Bridge too far.
famous bridge too far. It's yeah, and I was quite proud of that video actually. I thought I quite liked how that turned out. So but it was just very weird being there on a sort of Monday morning when it was relatively quiet there apart from a few cars, and it seems to be a popular spot for like the river cruise like boats to pull up there and so on. And trying to imagine that in sort of like 1940, in like September 1944 would the a handful of British paratroopers trying to hold one end of the bridge against the Germans, German army, and so on. It's quite a weird thing to sort of try and put this situation to try and even think of it, if it really,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Now, how often are you looking at posting on that channel?
Yeah, well, that was the last one I did now. It's been about a month, and mainly I haven't been as active on YouTube, to be honest, for a couple of months in any of my stuff, and it's only sort of like in the last couple of weeks I put a few videos on my main channel, but I really probably hope to start doing a bit more. I might start doing a couple more reaction videos, because there's plenty of like history videos up on YouTube and so on. I know I'm trying to sort of somewhat keep it separate from my atheist stuff. I've got this feeling that we are getting near Christmas, and we know all the bad atheist history about how Christmas is pagan is coming up in a couple of weeks. So I've got a feeling there might be a video addressing some of that stuff at some point.
Okay. And then are each of your videos going to be on site of the place that you're talking about, or was that special for that particular one?
That was special for that one. I mean, where I can, I like to get out and actually film at locations where people can actually, I've at least got something in the background or whatever. Now, I mean, as I said, I found out with Portsmouth Dockyard that wasn't really an option, and I had to film outside and have one of the ships in the background, because there was no way they were going to let me film on HMS Victory, for example. So, but it's you kind of live and learn with this stuff, don't you?
Yeah. Do you know what? Now, you said that your next one is going to have something to do with Christmas. Do you know kind of what you have in mind for that one, or are you kind of still working on that?
I've got some ideas for it, but I just, as I say, like I said, we know this every single year. We kind of get this like very, very bad history that a lot of atheists spew about the Christmas was pagan kind of thing, and we get all the whole like things about misinformation about things like Christmas trees and so on. And I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, and look, I'm not going to say, look, I like the guy and I respect the guy, but goddamn, Seth Andrews put something out a couple of years ago where he just got everything wrong, and it was, the guy with that kind of reach or whatever puts out misinformation, and as far as I know, because I know people have tried to correct him on it, and he's just doubled down on it. I mean,
Oh, really?
and I like Seth, I really do. I mean, I think he does a lot of good work, but when a guy like with that kind of reach puts out misinformation that people are just parroting, it's a bit worrying to me,
Yeah, we can end up as bad as the young earthers.
Yeah.
If we're just parroting bad information ourselves as well.
Yeah.
Okay. While Geoff was talking, I got the link to his history channel, and it is now pinned in the description, and I see a couple people have subbed, and I've
brilliant.
also put the link in the description as well. So if you are watching this at a later time, just check the description, and links to both of Geoff's channels are there. So Tara, tell us about your book.
Oh, yes. So it is called The Quest for Terra Loth. I started writing it in 2016. It is what the subgenre is literary RPG. Now, these are books that can be played as Dungeons and Dragons campaigns as well as a story. So there's a campaign within the story. It's there isn't a lot out there in the market. So when I approached the publisher, they were very excited because they hadn't seen any kind of decent literary RPG. I started out traditionally, trying to find a literary agent, but I could probably wallpaper the house with the rejections
Yeah.
that I got. Yeah, because you got things like, oh, it's just I can't market this right now, or I have too much of this, that, the other. And I worked on the book through the various iterations of the edits for about 3 years, off and on, and then I decided to give up on. Oh, thank you. A great title. Yay. I decided to try to give up on an agent, and I thought about self-publishing, but then I was like, well, self-publishing is okay, but I might not have the same access to advertising as I would if I, went traditionally. And I
True.
found, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's so hard. Anyone could self-publish, but it's the advertising that's the second hurdle. Well, really the third. The first is writing. The second's finding finding someone to publish or self-publish, and then it's getting it out there. But yeah, so I found my publisher, Hydra Publications. They're a very small outfit out of Kentucky, and they had an open call for submissions. So I put it in. Didn't think much about it because the way it works is you could put something in and never hear, or the publishers might take 6 months to read through all of submissions. So I got a email from Tony Ackery, who runs it. It's a one-man operation, and he said, "Look, I really do like the story, but you need to get it professionally edited." And I was like, okay. Kind of hurt me a little bit because I work as a copy editor, but you can't see your own mistakes sometimes. So I got together some money and I went on the website Fiverr and I hired someone to do a professional edit. They're still in school, so they're not going to charge the usual fee. They only charged me, I think it was $125, which is crazy because if it's someone who's experienced in the business, you could be paying upwards of 10 grand.
Oh, wow.
Just to have it edited. So I had it edited, I read through it, made some changes, sent it back to him, and we started the negotiation process. And, because he's a small outfit and he was backlogged, I really didn't get the final contracts until November of 2021. He gave me an initial offer in 2020. And then with COVID and everything, it wasn't published until this past June. So, yeah, it was a journey. People sort of asked me like, why did you keep going? And I said, because like I had this one dream, and it was something to hold on to, and it was positive, and I had this whole other world to escape to. And I was saying to my husband after it was published, I'm like, what do I do now? Like for 6 years, I've like hoped and hoped and hoped and hoped that someone would publish it, and I had all these like dreams and fantasies about how it was going to be, and now it's published. What do I do?
Okay, now you said it's an RPG. So, and does it have rules for a game, or does the story change according to choices, or how does it work?
So no, it's not like one of those choose your own adventures. Basically, you can take the story and turn it into an RPG. So you'd have to make up your own rules and everything like that, and you could use the same rules as Dungeons and Dragons.
I see.
For it. Yeah, but I have it here. It's not going to show up on the screen, but I do have a copy of it here. But yeah. So the story is at its core, it follows the classic tale of, growing up when something very tragic happens and having to grow up very fast. But it's a tale of the love that can only be between a necromancer and his dead wife. So that's it. The core focus is one guy trying to get back his true love, and he's hurting a lot of people in the process of that end goal. And there are other elements going on, but that's the sort of the core focus for the evil character who's Lord Evenloth Elmakia.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and bring up. I've got the Amazon
Cool, yeah.
link on screen here, and I'll go ahead and bring that up. Let's see.
I didn't think about the background trying to show it.
Yeah, I didn't realize that would happen either. There we go.
This is my first attempt at advertising for it, so here we are. Yeah, I really fell in love with the cover art. There was a few things there, but I thought that was great. I felt like it would hook people. My sister-in-law said she didn't really understand the cover art, and I said, well, you have to read the book, and then you'll understand the cover art. But she did say that she was intrigued enough that she would pick it off the shelf, if she was in a bookstore.
You just sold a book by the look of it.
And Granny bought one too, so I sold 2 today. Necromancy in the water.
Did you do your own cover art?
No, the publisher has an artist that I work with, and she's great. Because I was being a real diva about it. I'm like, no, I want this color. Can we have this shade of of yellow or gold? But it was great. It felt real when I saw that.
So give us a teaser of what the book's about, but don't tell us enough that people won't want to buy it.
Shall I read the prologue? It's only 1 page.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Why don't you do that?
Okay. Let me get that open. I was like, I don't know if they'll want to do that. Okay. All right. Prologue. In the frenzy of darkness and smoke, 2 Kami men named Zlogoth and Janoth ran swiftly downward through the rugged cliffs of Mount Curak. Behind them, flames blasted out of a magnificent mansion. Come, we must hurry before anyone catches us. We have to protect the stones. It must stay sealed, Zlogoth choked through labored breathing as the men continued to descend the mountain, leaving the sound of glass shattering and the sight of flames flickering behind them. Approaching the bottom of the mountain, they were relieved to find that the Gibberals had left their carriage free from their shredding picks. Where can we possibly hide these to make sure they stay hidden? Janoth looked down toward the calfskin sacks resting in his lap, sighing as he knocked on the carriage's roof. With a swoosh, the carriage flew into the sky. I do not know where we will hide them, but we must make sure they remain hidden. Terraloth, our world, must stay protected from this evil, no matter what. And that is the prologue.
Okay, very good. So is Terraluth a region or is it the whole world?
It is the whole world. It's made up of a collection of realms. So you have Druidonia for the druids. You have Magica, which is for the magic folk. You have Kami. You have Necromancium, which is where the basis of our tale starts and finishes. So I've got it all in a neat package there. So in the world, everybody knows about everybody in all the different realms, but they've kind of been locked away from each other for many years because there've been a lot of wars and schisms, and they want to protect their little piece of Terraloth.
Okay.
Are you planning more books in this series? Are you, or if it goes well, you're hoping that you do more with this world you created? And
yeah, I am hoping. When I first sat down to plan out the story, my initial plan was for 3 books. It's been through quite a few iterations. Names have changed. At one point, it was going to be a whole family, fighting for a land, and now it's just one little girl, without her family. I really want to see how it goes because, it's a lot of work to put into a book. So we'll see how the sales go and all of that. But I am working on another book that's in the same universe, which I call the Ultraverse. It's on another planet. And this story will be referenced in there. The kids are reading, about the history of Terraloth, things like that. So I've done a lot of world building. And I really hope that it does go well and that I can put out some more books. I mean, I could write it, but it's just I need to make sure that it's going to be a wise investment of my time,
Good idea.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Geoff. Frankenstein says, I blame necromancy for my current existence. Go ahead, Geoff. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, well, if it really takes off, or say you can sell a lot of books, you can then always do like the George R.R. Martin thing and just like tease the next book for the next 15 years and never give it. Is it?
I thought about that. I was like, oh gosh, I know. So it's odd being in this world now, because like I've gotten a lot of invites to book launches and things like that, but I can't go because they're in other places. But I guess people get your email somehow and put you on these lists. I was also invited to watch Deadline Hollywood's premieres of For the Love of Docs, which are things that are going to be on National Geographic in a couple of months, but I had advanced screenings, so I felt I don't want to get a big head, but this is fun.
Do you think maybe you'll do some local book launches, like maybe at some local bookstores in your area?
Yeah, I'm thinking about talking to the librarian at our local library and see, but Louisiana, I am in Louisiana, by the way. It's weird. Like I wanted to make a donation of a couple of copies for the library, and my husband went down there on the way back from work. So I was like, I tried to call. Can you go and ask them? And she said that I would have to send the books to the chief censor, and then they would decide if they could be in a library and which library they would go to. I was like, I heard the word chief censor. I was just like, anyone who knows me knows that I'm anti-censorship. So it's just like, shivers up my spine. But yeah, I'm thinking maybe we could do that at the library if they would. We don't have a lot of local bookstores in my town, but the town over that's about maybe 30 minutes, they do have a small bookstore. And then there's more, obviously, bookstores across the lake in New Orleans, which isn't far from me. So it's just kind of getting traction. I mean, a lot of the people I've spoken to, they kind of, I don't know if it's that they are cagey or they think that I'm not published traditionally, but the book isn't in any shops because it's all online,
Okay, so it's only available online right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have to show a ton of sales before any bookstores would be willing to actually put it in the physical
store
locations, because it's on Barnes and Noble, it's on Amazon, Books A Million. You can get it anywhere because the publisher goes through everyone in the whole world. Like you could get it from online stores in Italy, Denmark. I've looked, it's everywhere, but physical copies in the actual store, no.
Okay. Randall Megley asks, is this your first book?
It is my first actual published book. I did write a collection of short stories, which are on Barnes & Noble, and they are in the Google Play Store for free, when I was just trying to get out there and see, get a feel for it. And it's called The Nightmares of Retail, and it's a collection of horror stories and satire based around the retail industry. So I think it's about 29 pages. It's just a couple of short stories, but it was fun.
Okay. Mark Caesar says that's a lovely picture of you on the Amazon site.
Thank you. Yes, that was taken in 2015 or it was 2014 because I had my hair cut after that. Yeah, so it was a selfie. I was trying to find the best looking image I could get.
Hollywood Sign said HBO's contract with Geoff Martin should have included a clause where if he didn't finish the next book at a certain point, they'd get a ghostwriter to do it for.
Yes, I've done a lot of ghostwriting actually too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not for novels. It's mostly just advertising. They do have content mills, which I was working in between jobs and everything. So around the same time, I started doing that. The bad part is that with most of them, like you can't even say that it was ghostwritten. So if I wanted to show a portfolio, I can't, and you sign all these NDAs, unfortunately. But I still do some copy editing on the side, and right now I'm working as a technical writer through a temping agency, but I'm not allowed to say who I work with.
Okay. Who read the Kindle copy?
The Kindle copy.
Mhm.
I didn't know that it had a reader on it. I thought that was just the computer voice.
I'm sorry, not yeah. I confused Kindle with audio. Is there an audiobook for copy?
No, the publisher did say that down the line they may do it, but
Okay.
they only really do that based on sales because then they have to hire someone to do the reading and
Yeah.
everything. So
Mhm.
yeah, I would like that because a lot of my family members have trouble reading, which is sad. So
Mm.
you know,
I must say I do have to do a lot of audio books. It's mainly just something that I like having on when I'm working, like an audio book. So
yeah, go ahead.
I like having audiobooks on when I'm driving. I do a lot of driving, and even if I'm just driving around town, if I've got an audiobook, if I get stopped by a train, if I don't have an audiobook on, I'm like, "Come on, I got to go." You know, I get very impatient. But if
Mhm.
I've got my book to listen to, I can just sit and chill and listen to my book while I wait for the train.
Yeah, see, I love audiobooks because it opens up the book to people obviously who maybe have trouble reading or maybe they're blind or something like that, and a lot of
Mhm.
people are anti audiobook. I think the problem is that when audiobooks came out they were abridged versions, so they
yeah,
took out a lot of the story to shorten it. Yeah. um Not really core stuff, but I guess that was the problem, that people didn't like them, but I think they're great. I would
I
love to
was
see it
just
as an audiobook.
I was thinking if they do make it into an audiobook, you might wanna read it yourself.
I could. Yeah, I don't know. I could. Maybe I could do my own audiobook, see if he'll let me. Because he has the rights to the audiobook too.
yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I tell you, the amount of contracts you have to sign.
So, who is the publisher again?
Hydra Publications.
Hydra?
Yeah, Hydra.
And what kind of books do they usually publish? Do they
They do a lot of sci-fi fantasy. That's how they started out. But they do have imprints for romance. They have psychological thriller. They
Oh,
have cookbooks. They have non-fiction, fiction. They're really not picky on that.
okay. So they're
Why?
kind of they're almost an all-round publisher of just about everything.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, anyone have any questions for Geoff or Tara? Do either of you have anything else you'd like to add?
I've got nothing going on because I've had this. I've
Mm.
done this for 6 years, so buy my book, please.
Okay.
If you are an Amazon Prime member, I think you can get it for $5, but you could use your digital credit if you have it. Hey, give me some Bezos money.
Well, I am an Amazon Prime, and it's offering it to me for $16.99.
Oh, it is. Okay,
Yeah.
maybe it was just on my side. Okay. So I saw it as that, or it might have been for if I had Kindle Unlimited. That might have been it.
Mm.
Yeah.
The big thing I get is free shipping.
Yeah.
I've fortunately I've got an absolute ton of books to read at the moment because I've literally got a crate of about 50 books that arrived at my door about 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Oh gosh.
Um,
Did you
yeah,
order
well,
them or did someone give them to you?
um, let's just say somebody didn't want to take them across the Atlantic Ocean with them.
Oh.
Ah, okay.
Uh, Noodle,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Ring's partner, because yeah, they've just moved to the States to be with Ring. But they
Oh
sent
shoot.
me a lot.
I'm.
Yeah, they sent me. I mean, to be fair, I did sort of ask them. I did say, oh yeah, if you got some books to send me, that's great. I wasn't quite expecting quite as many books as they sent me actually, and it was like, okay,
Yeah.
I've got half a live, I've got half like a bookcase worth here, you know. It was like, so I've got a lot of books to read for that'll keep me going for several years, I'd imagine. That's
Yeah. The worst part about being a writer is you never have time to read.
mm,
I think I've got a full bookshelf, and I don't think I've even worked through a quarter of that.
I've read a few books recently, and a couple of them have really affected me in what I'm writing and what I'm doing online in my videos. Particularly, I just finished Dr. Richard Carrier's Jesus from Outer Space. And until recently, I've always considered Carrier's position kind of a fringe position, which is not surprising because that's kind of the position of the majority of Bible scholars. But the more I read his work and the more I'm seeing the movement of other Bible scholars, he seems to be a bit ahead of his time. And I see a lot of people moving more toward his position.
I'm not. I've got to admit. I mean, I have read on the historicity of Jesus, but and I know the thing is, I think I can understand why it seems quite appealing on the surface, but I'm not sold on it. I got to admit, I tend to. I mean, I know he's been having a big feud with Dr. Kip Davis for recently as Carrier, or say or Carrier, or and I think that there's definitely some critiques of Carrier's scholarship on that book that I think are valid. And I but it's an interesting position. I'm not sold on it, and I think I mean, but I will say, as far as should we say, mythicist books, it's probably the best one out there. It makes the best case. There's a lot of Jesus mythicism stuff is real, and even Carrier himself will probably tell you this, that a lot of the Jesus mythicism stuff is real rubbish. I mean, there's I remember trying to read that Joe Atwill's Caesar's Messiah, and it was like. And there's a lot of atheists that were going on about this book a few years ago, and I just was like, and I've got just a few pages into it, just knowing this is absolute conspiracy theory garbage. It's on the, and you could be seen on the surface that this was garbage. It was.
I agree with you. I'm not quite all the way to mythicism, but on the other hand, I also see a lot of his points, and even Paula Gia's most recent video kind of picked up on some of it, which is I was unaware that there's virtually nothing from Christian outside of the Bible itself that was written between the time Jesus died and about 110 AD. And Carrier's theory is that there probably was material written at that time by the church fathers, and it got destroyed by what is now the Orthodox position because they wanted their ideas rather than the original Christian ideas. Which
I think
I think others are picking up on that as well. That there's that period of silence where we really don't know what was going on. I
think the point I just completely part ways with Carrier. I'm not with his sort of thing he posits about a sort of celestial Jesus. I just can't get behind that.
Yeah,
I find that a little bit. I mean, as I said, I do tend more towards that there probably is a historical figure somewhere at the at the root of it, but I tend to go with the majority of academia on this one, and but like I said, we're getting into the season of atheist bad history, so like I said earlier.
We have a question here. Do you consider it a prerequisite to read Hebrew to write about it? And I would have to ask, that depends on what you mean by writing about it. I mean, I certainly write about and talk about what's in the Bible, and a lot of the Bible was originally written in Hebrew, particularly the Old Testament, not the New Testament. And I do not speak Hebrew. I don't understand any Hebrew, but I will sometimes go to Bible Hub, find the Hebrew translation of a verse, look at a particular word in Hebrew,
Mhm.
and look at how many times that word is used in the Bible and what other contexts the Bible has used that word in, to see if it contains, if it conveys the same meaning in other contexts, or if it means the same.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
in that respect, I think it's okay to talk about Hebrew and write about Hebrew, even if you don't speak Hebrew. But I certainly wouldn't call myself an expert on it by any means.
No. I think it goes back to worrying about, the translation's different. Are you, interpreting it the way it was written in Hebrew?
Paulogia's Who Wrote the Gospels video needs to go viral, well produced, visually appealing, polite, informative, and engaging. And yeah, that's exactly the one I was referring to, that picks up on Carrier's position that we have this time of silence, and the Gospels were written during that time of silence. And yeah, it is interesting what he had to say. I've been saying for a long time, obviously parroting what I've heard from other people and read in other books, that we don't know who wrote the Gospels. But yeah, Paulogia just gave a whole lot of information about how we got the names that were eventually put onto them.
Okay, I'll have to check that one out. I really haven't watched a lot of, the debates between Christians and atheists in a long time. It's just, if I can find one where people aren't shouting and screaming at each other.
Well, there was one that took place yesterday where there wasn't a lot of shouting and screaming at each other, but it was a bit of a strange one, I'll just say.
I'll have to check it out after this.
Yeah.
You talking about your
myself
debate?
and Diesel yesterday, so we debated the existence of God. So
which God?
well,
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the whole problem with the debate, is they never really nailed down which God.
Well, see, the thing is, normally it's the atheist that's going to say which God. In this case, it was the Christian. So it was all a bit. Yeah, it was a bit. I mean, it was good in a way, I suppose, because I think because maybe he bought something he went a little in a bit of a different direction than maybe I would have assumed he'd go in, which I felt led to some interesting conversations. But yeah, I haven't watched many debates recently. I've kind of, although I did put a video out about a certain debate channel, which I don't really want to mention their names, but it got a lot of
I watched it.
it got a lot of traction. My video on it, and I'll just say I saw the thing in question, and my thing was, I thought Matt Dillahunty was more than justified in walking out of that debate. So that's my position on that.
Yeah.
Carrie Ann Chrysler says the ideas existed in the Qumran culture associated with the Dead Sea Scrolls, so towards that goal is reasonable to inspire the gospel myths. It wasn't popular until Vesuvius blew, in my opinion. The end of the world would seem a likely worry for people. That's an interesting observation. I was not aware that. I thought there were a lot of end of the world type beliefs around the time of the first century.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there were.
Was that also around the time of the Mayans, and they had was it a clock or something saying that it was going to be their doomsday clock? I can't remember.
I think the Mayans might have been a little later than that. I'm not entirely sure. I've got to admit that's an area of mines. That's an area of history I'm not very up on. I have to admit, though. So
no, I really should get it. I should look into it. I just haven't had much time to study all of that, but I think it'd be interesting.
So Tara, if you make a second book, is it going to continue the story that you wrote in this book? Is it going to focus on some different people in the same land, and any thoughts on where a second book would go?
I do have a rough guide set up for the second book, and it will follow the same characters and same story as this. So it picks up about 6 months after the events of the end of the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
And we're following our main character, Imogen Welkin, and she's about ready to go to school and, start her magical training
Okay.
in the
Okay.
capital. So.
Has the publisher talked to you at all yet about a second book?
They did actually ask me when I first signed up with them how many books that I'd planned. And I said to them, I planned 3. So if I do ever write the other 2, then they have to be published through the publisher. It was all in the contract. So,
Okay.
that was one of the first questions they asked me. Is it, do you plan on it being a series or a standalone book? So,
Okay.
Yeah. That'll be good.
Let's see. Carrie Ann says there was a temperature drop after Vesuvius that would have created low crop yields and temperatures up for 10 years after the eruption. That's interesting. I wasn't aware of that. Oxford University is older than the Aztec Empire.
Yeah, but I think when we talk about I think we mentioned the Mayans, so they were about quite a while before the Aztec Empire. So I mean, I think they'd been and gone way before the Aztec Empire, despite what perhaps 1 or 2 Hollywood films might have you believe that the Mayans were still a thing when the Spanish turned up.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mel Gibson.
What was it? 2000 was it? Was that
Apocalypto? That film,
No,
if you remember that.
Yeah, Apocalypto.
That's the one criticism I got from my most recent video was I used a couple of clips from The Patriot, and someone said,
yeah, I could spend a lot of time shredding that film.
Honestly, I enjoyed that film.
I did too.
Yeah, I went to the cinema twice to see it.
It's enjoyable, but I suppose the history nut in me really finds it a bit offensive, though.
Actually, my husband is a real history nut, and he enjoyed it. He just said, "Okay, now what they did is they took a couple of different battles and combined them into one." He says, "This scene is from this battle, and this scene is from that battle, and this scene is from that battle." And they just put them all into one battle.
I think
he had no problem with it.
The thing I found quite offensive, though, just me, was the whole thing with the British burning that village inside the church. I found that historically quite offensive because there's nothing like that happens. Because for starters, that would have been such a propaganda blooming coup for if any atrocity like that had been caused. That would have been such a propaganda victory for the other side, and both sides were sort of aware of that sort of stuff, So even though I'll say Jason Isaacs' character definitely was based upon a real British officer, so
wasn't he brilliant in that though, Jason Isaacs?
He is pretty much brilliant in everything though, isn't he? So
yeah,
he just knows how to be a villain.
I know, but it's like it's real. Like he really is that way. You're so convinced. I think if I met him, I'd be scared.
Yeah.
Got here in the comments. Mark was saying something about different publishers.
Oh, he just said, I don't think it would make any sense to use different publishers for a book in a series. I actually have seen some series do that, that they'll start in one publisher and finish in another.
Yeah, there's a lot of facets to it, especially if you have a problem with the publisher or, they're not respecting your autonomy. I mean, it's a mixed bag, but I'm really liking this publisher. I'll stay with them as long as they want to have me. So.
Frankenstein says Aztecs were newcomers to the area. Olmecs are much older than Oxford U for certain by several millennia.
Yeah. I think
Okay, I
Onyx is
don't
Mexico.
understand this comment. Tell me. Oh, now I remember.
That's
Now
from
I
the
remember.
Patriot. That's from the
Yep,
Patriot. Yeah.
yep. I remember now.
Ohio.
It took me.
That, yeah. When he's getting his land.
Yep.
Getting promised land, I should say.
So we live in crazy world when it comes to politics. Are things any better where you are, Geoff?
Britain has taken one look at America
Mm-hmm.
and said, "Hold my beer." Is what's happened here.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. I mean, just this week alone, for some reason we've brought back a failed prime minister and made him our foreign secretary. But we had what we call our home secretary, who did get sacked at the beginning of the week because she more or less last week tried to incite a riot on the streets of London.
Mm.
It's unbelievable.
Speaking of beer, when I was in Ireland a couple of weeks ago, I tried Guinness.
Oh, did you like it?
Yeah, I did. I
Mm.
have not had a beer in several decades because I had an issue with beer way back when I was 18. And so I didn't want anything to do with it. But, I was in Ireland and we were on this hop on, hop off bus. And they said, if you go to this pub, they'll give you a free glass of beer. It'll be a small glass, but it'll be a free glass of beer. So I thought, well, I might as well at least try it. And I actually like this. I
Yeah,
can see why
it's
you
really
people
nice.
like this.
Yeah.
Guinness is lovely now, but I've got to go to Ireland at some point because I've always heard that the Guinness in Ireland tastes a lot better than what it does here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and this is just what people have told me, that it tastes a lot better. Because Guinness that we get in pubs in England, they've got a brewery in London as well, so which is where most of our stuff comes from. Whereas obviously in Ireland, the Dublin brewery is where I've always heard Guinness tastes a lot nicer in Ireland. But I'd like to actually I've got to put that theory to the test at some point.
Yeah.
So
Things do taste different with water.
Guinness is the nectar of the gods. Let's be
Yeah.
clear about that.
In 2016, Guinness became vegan by removing fish juice.
Huh.
I heard something about that. Yeah.
That was one of the things that I missed. When I was in Dublin, we were supposed to go to the Guinness factory for a tour. We bought tickets. As many of you know, when I was in Ireland, I got COVID and I was in bed with a fever the day we were supposed to go on the Guinness tour. So I missed that. My husband went.
Yeah, can't waste that ticket, huh?
He had a Guinness for you, did he?
Yes, I'm sure he did.
Did a tasting come with it, like a free tasting or was that part of the package, or was it just a tour? Or
he answered that, and I can't remember now. I can't remember if he was complaining because they didn't, or if he was saying, that you had to buy a glass at the end. But I think it did. I'm pretty sure it did, but I don't hold me to that because I don't remember.
It's all right. Yeah, the only distillery I've been near is the moonshine that they have in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. We went up there and all the smell. You get drunk walking through it.
I've been to when I was in Scotland years ago. Actually, when I was still a kid, actually, my family went to the Glenfiddich distillery, which is like this famous single malt whiskey. But I've done a few. I've done when I was in one previous time, not the last time I went, but a previous time when I was in Holland. Went to the Heineken brewery. So
Frankenstein says that Guinness is the equivalent of an Irish Happy Meal. There's a couple
Oh,
people that have been commenting that
mhm.
it's a meal and a beer in one.
Yeah.
Or all those was it vitamin B? Yeah, it's a nice beer. I'm not really a beer drinker, but I will have a Guinness.
We were surprised at how many pubs there were everywhere. Almost, every city we went to, you didn't need to ask where's a good place to go to eat. You just walk out the door and you could see 5 pubs, within sight.
I think to me though, that should be the natural order of things. You've got things you've got things backwards out there. That there should be more pubs than churches. There
Oh,
really
yes,
should be.
definitely.
Then again, I should say, saying that I live in a small town just outside Southampton, and we got like two where I am. We've got like well, no, hold on, three pubs and about 8 churches that nobody goes to. You know,
What,
There
the pub
was
or the church?
there was one little tiny town that we went to, and we went to it for one purpose only, and that is, it's about 45 minutes south of Silga. Silgo. Um, it is a absolutely rinky-dink little town. It only has 2 streets. There's only about 4 or 5 houses there, and then there's this big Catholic church. And that was what we went to see, was that church, because a number of my ancestors were baptized or married in that
Aw.
church. And the church still has the original um, facade and arch doorway from
Wow.
like 1820. But then the rest of the church has all been very modernized. Now, I did
Mhm.
not go inside the church because I was still COVID positive. But I did go to the church and looked at the outside. But it was just kind of weird that this little tiny town, and there's this great big church. Now, I'm sure that a
mm,
lot of people in the area, because it was a very rural area, all go to this church. So I'm sure there's a
Mhm.
congregation that supports it, but it's obviously not just the town where the church sits.
Yeah, it's weird seeing that just in the middle of nowhere.
Mhm.
yeah.
That must have been cool to go to a place where your ancestors were, baptized or married. It's
That
so
was
surreal.
Yeah, that was one of the purposes of the trip, was we wanted to go and see some of our Irish heritage, because my ancestors came over from Ireland. Um, on my mom's side, they came over in about 1840, and on my dad's side, they came over much earlier. Um, but one of the things that was funny is we went to see this farm that's still within the family, that's owned by some distant cousins. And we thought our connection was much closer than it was, because there was a common ancestor by the name of Margaret Kelly. Margaret Kelly was my great grandmother.
Mhm.
But now I missed the farm. That was another thing I missed because of COVID. But the rest of the group that went there, my aunt was there. And, when the woman was talking about Margaret Kelly, my aunt said, "Yeah, that's my grandmother." And the woman said, "Margaret Kelly's my mother." And they realized it had to be 2 different Margaret Kellys, because my great grandmother died in about 1964, and this woman wasn't even born yet. That
Yeah, had to be. Had to be. Oh, yeah. I would love to do like heritage tours. I'm made up of a lot of different, places. One of the ones I'd really like to do was to go to China.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
Yes, my great grandfather was from China.
mhm.
But the trouble you have is good old Chairman Mao decided when the Cultural Revolution happened that he encouraged people to burn their family books. So
Mm,
Yeah.
each clan had a book and they had everyone written in it.
mhm.
And most of them didn't survive. So,
Oh,
I
yeah,
that's too bad.
yeah.
I was going to go to China, and I actually it was I was yeah, I mean I it was seriously emotional. I was in the process of paying off the holiday. I
Mhm.
was going to do a hiking thing on the Great Wall,
Oh, cool.
Then, unfortunately, this was scheduled to take place in 2020.
I did too.
So, yeah.
I
Hey, what
had
was the
tickets.
chances?
I had bought my plane tickets. We had a group tour arranged, and we were gonna go see the Great Wall as well as several other things. We were leaving April 14th, 2020.
Yeah, I was gonna be going in June that year.
Okay.
Did you get your money back?
I did, yeah.
Most of it.
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
about 80% of it back.
Yeah, I think
Well,
that's about what I got back. So yeah.
yeah. Actually, fun fact about the Great Wall of China too. They're still doing quite a lot of repairs on that, because another thing Chairman Mao said to do was to break it down and you reuse the bricks for something else, for
Mm.
farmers and things. So people were obliterating that wall
Mhm.
for about 20 or so years, and then they decided to stop. So a lot of that has been rebuilt.
Okay.
So.
Okay. All right. Well, we are almost out of time, so I want to give each of you a chance to replug your work. For anyone who is watching now that was not here at the beginning, Geoff, tell us again a little bit about your history program.
Yeah, like I said, I started a new channel several months ago, History with Scummer, which I'm hoping to do a bit more with it. I will admit it is more of a side project for me, but I've also got my main channel, Godless Scummer, so people want to come and check us out there as well. So I'm also fairly regularly on One Ring's channel, doing the Media Musing show, so you can check me out there as well. So
Okay. And Tara, remind us again about your book.
Yes, so my debut novel, The Quest for Terra Loath, was printed in June of this year. You can buy it where all good books are sold. There will be a link to the Amazon store here in the description. Did you put it down?
It's already there.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's already there. Yes, and I do have a channel, The Lone Runner's Bunker. I really haven't done a lot with that channel in maybe about a year and a half, but there is a lot of content there, and I focused on words of the day. So if you'd like to go through my back catalogue and learn some new words, they're there. I may pick it up again, but I've just been so busy with life,
I was going to plagiarize it and do swear word of the day, but
Do it.
yeah.
Let's see. And as far as what I've got next week, there will be no stream. I've got, for the first time ever, all of my grandchildren will be here and we'll be together. Yeah. I've got family coming in, so there'll be no stream next week. In 2 weeks, I will have Dr. Bird. I had put out a feeler to people, who would you like to see on the show? Who can I try to get? And I had a recommendation for Dr. Bird, who has a new book out. Now she is actually a believer, but she is I can't remember if she's a textual critic, but she is an expert in the New Testament, but she's not all that well known. And so we're going to promote her book and talk about some of what she's been working on.
I'll have to look that.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you everyone in the chat for adding to the discussion. Thank you to everyone who is watching for the view. And thank you especially to Tara and to Geoff for coming and telling us a little bit about what you're working on.
Thanks. It was great.
Yeah,
Thanks very much.
Thanks
and
for having us
watching.
on.
You're most welcome.
All right.
Live your life.
Sweet.